Hello and welcome to Incursion, an indie games podcast, your weekly source for all the indie games news you need to know. This week we have 4 indie games news stories for you, but before we get into any of that, I'd like to introduce myself, Vaughn, alongside my illustrious co-host, the biggest of average Josh boys. How you doing today, Big Josh boy?
I'm doing well. It's another day. We're back in it. It's 2020, although I guess we already did an episode in 2020, but still, it's like... now it's the first day in 2020. The other episode, you were sick and dead and didn't really count.
Yeah, I mean, it was barely an episode. It was only like hour and 40 minutes or something like that.
That was like our speed run of the episode.
Yeah, considering typically we've had like 2-hour-long episodes.
Well, I mean, it's mostly because of you. I blame you.
Yeah, definitely all my fault. I talk a lot, dude.
I know. I listen to it.
I don't shut the fuck up, so...
I mean, I'm pretty sure it's definitely also me with the game part, but I haven't been playing too much this week, so we should be good for another quick episode.
Yeah, I know. I was like, man, this episode's not going to go long at all. It's just going to be depressing and short.
I mean, I could ramble about some stuff. I've been watching GDQ lately. It's happening right now. Games Done Quick. Man, I love that event. It's so good. Speedrunning is just such an interesting topic. Plus,
so isn't Games Done Quick like making money for a charity by them doing like live streams of them basically speedrunning games? Is that what it is?
That is exactly what it is. So it's about preventing cancer. And so basically throughout the entire run, what they do is they have a schedule that's full for a whole week of people who will come in and they'll do speed runs. And then there's some speed run blocks that are like bonus events kind of. And if people donate enough in to the event for GDQ, you'll basically get to unlock additional speedruns. So people will play additional games and they have like certain time sinks that are in there that usually you always make it, but it's just if people donate enough, they'll get in more games, or they get, there's also incentives for people who are donating to get like raffled into prizes that people will create things. So like handmade things, people will make like paintings or little sculptures or keychains or things like that. And then essentially they give those away to GDQ, who will then pawn them off as saying like, hey, during this block of time, usually they have like certain games that are blocked off that make most sense together. Like they'll have a Sonic run where they have a bunch of different Sonic games back to back. And they're like, during the Sonic block, you can get any one of these prizes, because it's like a raffle for whoever donates up to a certain amount. So like whoever donates up to $20 during this time period is able to win this. And so you keep going with all of these prizes that GDQ have, and it's basically just a big event to try and build up, donating money that goes to charity. And the last couple of GDQs have gotten like, I believe, $2 million plus.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how much money gets thrown into GDQ. But it's all for a good cause. There's so many different types of games that you get to see for the first time. You get to see them totally broken, or your beloved games played in a way that you would never think of. You get to see different communities around games and interesting, tidbits and facts behind the scenes, because they do interviews with some of the speedrunners and some of people who are behind the actual games themselves, depending on who they can get at the time. But it's a really cool event. I love watching GDQ, and it's just, there's always something interesting because they try to do new games each time, something that hasn't been done in the past. Like this time, and this is kind of spawning into what I've been playing, is there was actually a Binding of Isaac speed run, where it was someone had to play this kind of modded version of Binding of Isaac, but it's basically you have to play each individual character and win through them. So it's like 7 characters and win each one within like an hour or so. And it was pretty nuts watching, to be honest. It's like insane how good some people can get.
That's pretty crazy. I can't say I've ever been... I just don't think I actually like to watch people play games. Like, I don't like Let's Plays, and I've never watched, like, Games Done Quick or anything like that. Like, speed runs have never been super interesting. But I do follow Sun He Legend on Twitter, because that guy makes some fucking dope GIFs. and I enjoy that shit. Did you know that Games Done Quick every year has like merchandise on the Yeti?
Yeah. They always have merchandise. It always looks pretty dope. I keep wanting to always get some, but I never do. But a lot of their stuff there is actually pretty dope.
Yeah, I've seen it. I'm trying to look at some right now because the Yeti has like their daily teas all the time, and they have that kind of stuff. Velocity pin. Oh yeah, these look sweet.
Yeah.
They have a bunch of Legend of Zelda ones. One that has Rob. Speed running, like SNES cartridge shirt.
Yeah. There's a lot of good parts to this, and I generally have always loved watching people play video games. I don't know why. It is a weird thing because when you think about it, you're like, oh, you could just be playing the game. Like, why do you care? But there's something that I just enjoy about not having to, in certain cases, get good at a game or, not always go into the intricacies of the game itself, but want to watch someone who knows essentially what they're doing or just has a good personality that I want to watch while I'm watching a game. So that's a lot of the reason why I generally tend to watch streams of games, people streaming. Or a good example is like League of Legends. I used to be a big League of Legends fan back when it first came out for the first couple of years, and then I just kind of dropped off. But during that time, I used to watch professional players play the game, and I've always enjoyed watching them play because they know what they're doing. Like, their games are pretty legitimate. Whereas now, I hate playing League of Legends. I will never consider opening up League of Legends. It is awful to play. I have no interest in it at all. But I still, to this day, know way more about League of Legends than most players do because I watch all of the competitive matches when it comes to the LCS and the LEC. I don't know why. It's just something that stuck with me, and I've still, to this day, keep watching the playoffs, the championships, and everything to that nature. So it's just something that I enjoy to do. And I kind of attribute it to the same as, like, watching sports. I could also, play football or hockey, but I'd rather watch the game instead because I don't play it well, and I'd rather watch someone who does play it well. So, I mean, there's certain ways where you could say, like, it's kind of weird, but it's really the same thing as general, like, in-person sports.
Yeah, I definitely understand it. I shouldn't say that I've never enjoyed watching people play games, because watching somebody do it well is totally different than watching me play games. So yeah. It makes sense.
But watching someone who's bad is also good. Because
there's like all the people who have to, like, they get huge numbers because they're super bad at Bloodborne but still stream it.
Yeah, because that's why I say with streaming, like, it's a really good medium, because if you have a good enough personality or you have interesting content, even if you suck at the game, you could still be interesting or fun to watch. Now, when you get a person who's both good at the game and, like, a great personality, that's when you get streamers who you just always want to watch, you always want to come back to. But, that's far and few between. Regardless, it's still, like, there's so many people doing this that you can always find someone who fits your style.
Yeah, I'll have to check out some more stuff. Maybe it'll help me discover more games. But let's get on to what games we're playing. You are playing more Binding of Isaac.
That is literally all I am playing. I said it last week, and I'm kind of sorry to the people who listen and want to hear about new games and things that, we're playing and indie games in the scene. But man, I am so addicted to the Binding of Isaac. It's so good, and there's so much to do in this game. It's nuts. Like, I've been playing. I've beaten Mom's Heart, which is one of, like, the second giant bosses in it, a number of different times. But I cannot, at this point, get past killing Isaac up on the floor or get past the devil right now. So basically, what that means is I suck at the game, and then I've unlocked a ton of the characters, but I'm still trying to get. Who was it? There's another character that I need to get by basically playing as this one Azazel, or Aziel. I forget how to say the name, but it's basically this, like, demon-looking character who I have to play the game in a like challenge mode run called Greed, which is essentially you play the Binding of Isaac, but it's not about dungeon crawling in the sense of going through different areas and trying to find the pathways that lead to the boss room. Instead, you basically have, like, a challenge room that you get stuck in. And it's always the same, where it's always going to be a randomly generated treasure room, a treasure room that requires a key, an area that has a shop, And in the middle, where you first start off, is where you actually fight enemies. So you basically click a button in the middle of the room, and then enemies spawn constantly, basically, based on a timer. And so you're fighting them, and you're getting money for fighting them, and then each time you do that, it spawns a number of enemies, then it spawns a boss monster wave, then it spawns a major boss wave, and you keep doing that until you get to basically finishing that floor and the exit door opening so that you can get out and do it all again and go through those waves until you get to this one boss called Greed. He is such a dick. Like, I cannot destroy him. He's such an asshole. He's so tough. He's like got these bombs everywhere that are constantly going off. He has these moves that give him health back. He has these moves that like unlock all of these doors, and just mobs and waves of all these little minions come through, and he's got so much health. He's so tanky that I just cannot defeat him, and it pisses me off to no end. I spent like 3 hours last night just trying to get a run that was good enough to defeat him, and I cannot do it. I will do it, but Jesus, is it a task.
Yeah, I kind of wish that I would hop back into Binding of Isaac, but I've realized that I think I'm just kind of done with roguelikes. Like, for at the moment, there's just so many roguelikes out that I've played that I'm just like, I think I want to chill for a while on them, because we have a game that came up in God Bless the Crowd, and I was watching the trailer and I was like, I hope this isn't a roguelike, because I'm going to be so annoyed if it is. Luckily, it is not, but I was seriously like dreading it being a roguelike.
Yeah, I mean, it does look pretty cool. Not to jump ahead, but
it looks pretty dope. The games that I've been playing, speaking of kind of like, it's not necessarily a roguelike, but it's actually very similar. The first game I've been playing is Downwell, which actually, now that I think about it, it's more of an arcade game than a roguelike. It technically has different upgrades that you can get between areas, but they're not necessarily like, it's not like your standard roguelike, mostly because each like iteration of it is basically the same, but with randomized environments. So for the most part, have you ever played Downwell before?
I have, actually. So I have it for some reason on Android. I think there was a day where they like gave it for free for some reason. So I just have it on my phone, and I tried it a couple months ago. It was actually, I enjoyed it, but it was definitely one of those things, especially with arcade games, that you play it a couple of times and you're like, this is pretty fun. And then I just kind of dropped it.
Yeah, I don't see having like a massive amount of lasting value with me right now, especially on PC. Maybe if I had it on like mobile or on Nintendo Switch, something like that, I think would probably be better to just pick up and play like a couple areas, see how far I could get.
Yeah.
The game is really interesting. I actually really like its art style and how it has kind of these minimalist colors. But if you've never played Downwell, one, it's developed by, I believe it's Mopin. It's Mopin. Honestly not sure how specifically to say that. And the whole thing is, you're basically like, you look like the Michelin Man. I don't know if you're like a man or a child, but you hop down a well that for some reason, like, you have gun boots on, and you just go down the well, and you basically try to get through and also collect these gems. Jesus.
Always dying.
I still have a cough. It's kind of weird. I have like a tickle in my throat. So, like, while I was talking, I could feel it getting worse and worse.
Until it was just too much.
Yeah. But Downwell is actually really interesting because there's a lot of strategy to it. So, like, when you jump down, if you don't hit the ground, you actually won't reload. So you can shoot all your bullets and then just kind of fall. And if you don't actually hit the ground or step on anything, your gun boots won't reload, which is kind of interesting. So there's like this entire strategy to it where you want to kind of like shoot a few enemies, land on the ground, but you can also kill enemies just by stomping on them, but others you can't. There's a lot to it that's actually really, really interesting. I haven't gotten too far into it. While going through the Steam achievements, it seems like there's quite a few areas that are in the game, so I'm definitely not far at all in it. But it's really interesting. I actually like it a lot. I don't know if I'm going to go back to it and play a whole lot more, But I do think it's something that I might check out on a different console just to make it a little bit more portable.
Yeah.
To make like plug and play a lot easier.
Yeah, I definitely think it was a good fit on a mobile device just because the same thing that you were talking about of that, pick up and play, because the same thing happened to me. I played it a couple of times and it was over, of course, a longer period of time, but it was one of those things where I was like, oh, I have a few minutes. Let me just, hop into Downwell, play a little bit, and then get my ass handed to me and be like, okay, that was fun, and then close it and, go on with my life. But obviously, I don't think it's as fit for Steam, even though it has great reviews on Steam, because it is a good game. But that accessibility of it definitely makes it easier to just pick up every so often and keep it kind of on your radar, so to speak. But regardless, I do think it's a good game as well.
Yeah, I picked it up on the Steam Winter Sale. I think it was like $1.
Well, that's a pretty good deal. I mean, mine was free, but, $1's not bad.
Yeah, I'm just not as cool as you. So I basically, I played Downwell and I played The Swords of Ditto, mostly because I want to get into my backlog of all these, older indie games that I just hadn't had a chance to play, especially because I was listening to the, kind of Volume 2 of P.S. I Love You XOXO with Blessing Adeoye Jr. and Greg Miller, and they were talking, Blessing was saying that now that he's on a PlayStation podcast, he needs to make sure he plays all of these older PlayStation games. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's a really good idea to make sure that I go back and play a bunch of older indie games that I just hadn't had a chance to. Yeah, I'm going to play Spelunky. Yes. I'm definitely going to play Undertale because I have it. I just need to play it. I'm going to try to mix those in with the other indie games that I'm going to be playing.
Also play Wuppo. Play Wuppo.
Yeah, I do. Is it Wuppo or Woopa?
I'm going to say Wuppo because I like it better, but it might be.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to play it too. I do have it on PS4, so...
Really?
I wouldn't
and you
really
haven't played it? I think we've been over this before.
Yeah,
I think I've been angry at you already, but I'm still angry at you.
This has happened 3 times, and
Look,
it's especially weird because I
block
bought
it out
when
of my
it came
memory.
out physically.
Oh, I do remember this. I block it out of my memory. I can't believe it every time. I'm just so mad.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. The other game I'm playing is The Swords of Ditto. I bought this one on a PlayStation sale not too long ago. I don't believe it was their end of the decade sale or end of the year sale. I think it was right before that, maybe their Christmas sale. I was looking forward to The Swords of Ditto for a long time, but it's honestly just not my kind of game. It's very floaty. I love the art style, and that's what kind of brought me to it. But the combat just doesn't seem to be that tight, especially while playing games at the same time, like freaking Bloodborne. I'm coming into the Swords of Ditto, and it's like your rolls aren't super precise, and I don't know. It seems like your attacks don't really have a lot of weight. There's no real knockback to your attacks, so you can just you can't even be interrupting attack. You can be just kind of slashing away at somebody and they just hit you while you're hitting them, and it's a little weird.
I really like the art style though. It's super cute.
It's a beautiful game. It looks so cute, but I don't know, it's just the gameplay, and I'm normally not somebody to be turned off by gameplay, but while playing it I was like, I honestly just I'm not having fun playing this. I like to look at everything, but I'm just not feeling the game, kind of a thing.
That's a shame.
I want to hop back into it eventually when I can get the TV Kid. That would be cool. Because there's basically the idea is that this seemingly immortal being, I'm not 100% sure, but this kind of witch character named Morimo, I think is what its name is, or their name is, and they kind of get reincarnated every couple years and try to take over the earth, or take over, I think it might be called Ditto. Yeah, it's whatever kind of island space, wherever they are, their world, I guess. And the Sword of Ditto is basically reincarnated to rival them. So it's kind of like how in Star Wars, a power will always rise up to create balance in the Force. That's kind of what's happening here, where Moromo pops up, so then the Sword of Ditto pops up. But you kind of start off initially, then you get killed, you wake up hundreds of years later, and Moromo has kind of like fucked up the world. It's interesting. But like I said, the combat is just not ideal for me. I'm just not a fan. Maybe if it had a little bit more weight to it, I would enjoy it a bit more. But I'm just not feeling it right now. I love the art style, but it's just not my kind of game, at least from what I've played.
No, that's a shame, but sometimes that happens. I think it also, like, especially because you're playing Bloodborne, it might just be weird that you're playing that game simultaneously because they're so different in feeling that it's, just such a different style that you just might lean more towards one, and that's why you're being more harsh on it. But also, some games just aren't for everybody.
Yeah. I'm going to pick it up eventually when I have more time to kind of sink, obviously, more time into it. But right now, I'm just going to continue trying to play a bunch of indie games. There's a bunch coming up this week that I'm excited about. Like, not this week, this month. Like, Temtem comes out on the 21st, or at least I believe it's released in early access on the 21st.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's them going in early access or them doing their stress test phase. Because I know they are going into early access, and they're also having like a 3-day period where they're doing a stress test first, I believe. The only reason I know that is because I was part of the people who actually originally backed it on Kickstarter. So they send out these emails, and I just remember seeing something about those days. It's kind of weird just because I was part of it, and I originally backed it to get the alpha, and I played it for like 1 or 2 days and then kind of dropped it. It's a good game, and I'm super excited for it, but it was one of those things where it was around the time where I was getting into the point where I was kind of like, I'm really tired of like early access and alpha games just because I play it so much and then I don't really care for it once it's actually out. So I decided to take a pause on it. But from what I played, if they have put in more and now they actually have like multiplayer and be able to play the whole game with a buddy, like it's definitely going to be a true competitor for something like Pokemon.
Yeah, it looks really cool. The stress test, it looks like ends. There are a few tests end on January 19th, so it seems like the 21st is actually when it goes into early access.
Yeah, that would make sense.
At least on Steam.
Yeah, I don't think it would be anywhere else for early access.
Yeah, I think it looks really cool. We've spoken about it before. Actually, I believe when it was initially came up as like a news story. I wanted to say when it came to Kickstarter, but I don't think that's when we actually talked about it.
No, I can't remember when their Kickstarter actually officially launched. Let me look that up because I think that might have predated our podcast entirely.
Yeah, I think it did. I think this was just something we talked about like randomly,
Probably.
Kind of off the cuff, like a news story. But speaking of news stories, let's hop into our first one. This one is over on IGN. It is written by Matt Kim, and it is Mother 4 inspired fan project renamed to Oddity, but it still looks like a worthy successor. For years, a group of developers have been working hard on making an unofficial sequel to Mother 3 called Mother 4. By the way, it doesn't really get into it until the end of this article, but if you don't know what the Mother series is, it's also known by Earthbound in the United States, so that might be the issue. And I believe Mother 3 was never actually localized in the United States.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. They say it later in the article as well.
Oh, okay, there you go. Yeah, I've always wanted to get into Earthbound, but I've never had the chance. It's just so interesting.
I am right there with you.
I do have the NES or the SNES Classic. I think has Mother or Earthbound on it, so I have to check it out.
I hope they just port it to Switch. That would be ideal.
That'd be cool. They did have it on the Virtual Console on Wii U. It says that
man,
down
fuck,
here or on Wii.
Fuck the Virtual Console. All right, just bring all the games.
But after a wave of DMCA takedowns from Nintendo, the team went underground, but resurfaced recently after rebranding its project as Oddity. Although Oddity is no longer the unofficial Mother 3 sequel, it still influenced by the series. A new trailer shows gameplay that's quite similar to the original Game Boy Advance Mother 3 gameplay, but technical flourishes and graphical improvements also show that it is a modern video game production. You can watch the trailer there. Mother 4 fan project has been talked about since as far back as 2013, but in 2017, the developers announced the project subreddit that it needed to rebrand the project due to the wave of takedown notices issued by Nintendo on fan projects. This despite how Mother 4 itself was never actually notified by Nintendo. I don't know why I find that so odd. Notified.
I don't know.
Okay. Rebranding the game was simply a precaution, though it's understandable considering how much work and effort already went into the project. I don't know if I'm going to read that part. Whatever, I will. Still, there hasn't been an official Mother game since 2006, and there's been no official localization for Mother 3 either. Yeah, like you said, it comes up later. But at least fans have lovingly made homages like Oddity, also, or along with a virtual console release of Earthbound. Oddity doesn't have a release date yet. The trailer says that the game will be releasing when it's ready, but if you're a Mother fan who's been waiting too long, Oddity is shaping up to be a worthy spiritual successor. From what I understand, if you haven't played what is it? I can't believe I can't remember. Undertale. That's meant to be somewhat of a spiritual successor as well.
Yeah.
So if you're really waiting that much and you want it so badly, you probably just play Undertale.
Or you could just find the Japanese version.
Yeah, I don't know how well that would go. So when Dark Souls 3 initially was coming out, people that were really into Dark Souls changed their They changed their region to be in Japan so that they could purchase Dark Souls 3 earlier, but you couldn't switch it to English. So people played through a large majority of the game in Japanese, and I heard it was really fucking hard. Which is, completely different, but just to be clear, it's not hard because the game is hard. It was hard because the game is in Japanese, and since you have to read item descriptions and everything, yeah.
Well, that's for trial and error. You just play more of the game.
I think there have also been fan localizations of Mother 3. I don't think there's been anything official.
Yeah, I'd be so surprised if there wasn't.
This story kind of, it doesn't suck. Especially because the game is it looks cool, and I think that's really awesome that they've been working on this fan project for so long. The only thing that sucks is Nintendo issuing DMCA takedowns, because Nintendo does this with a lot of fan-made titles. Like Pokemon Uranium looked so cool, but it was only up for a week, and then they were forced to take it down for the exact same reason.
I think the same thing happened to a Metroid game that was created.
I wouldn't. I bet. I don't know why people wouldn't just call it a Metroidvania and be like, "Roly Poly Man."
Yeah, Roly Poly Man. I would buy that game.
It's technically 100% different. He's not a ball. He's a roly poly, and he's not a woman. He's a man.
That's so true, man.
Roly Poly Man.
Mind blown. Get this man $1 million. He knows. He knows what to do. I don't think it. Well, okay. The whole fact that Nintendo is doing that, I understand it. That's Nintendo's property. That's something that they're doing as fans and they're creating, and it's awesome that they're doing it. But at the end of the day, it is Nintendo's IP. It is their right to say, hey, this is something that wasn't mandated by us. Go away. But the good thing is,
go away.
Go away. The good thing is they are, laxing a bit on that whole mentality of you can't have our IP with the Cadence of Hyrule that came out last year. So there is that mentality from Nintendo's side that, if it's something they had perhaps spoken with Nintendo and worked up a contract and somehow, gotten them to agree to that, then there might be more room for that to exist in the future. But I think from, the present, it does make sense for them to rebrand just because this, even though they're not Mother 4, and obviously that would get them a lot of publicity trying to say that, but this kind of publicity right now is going to get them a lot of hearsay because the fact that this is even on an IGN article and this type of game, Oddity, will now essentially be known, even for people who didn't know about, oh, there was a Mother 4 unofficial. Now they know, oh, there's a game that's basically a, rebranded version of what the fans tried to create to be that sequel, or, that second coming.
Yeah, if anything, this was a great way to get the word out. Like,
Exactly.
This is good publicity, because this story was pretty much featured on all larger gaming news sites. Like, IGN covered it. I think, GameSpot definitely covered it. Maybe Polygon.
Yeah, there was a couple of different
Game
places.
Informer. But Game Informer puts out, like, one fucking news piece a week. So.
Well, we do have one from there.
Yeah, exactly.
But like I said, to the same point is, they're still going to do fine in that sense. They were never going to be officially backed by Nintendo anyway. I don't think it's bad for them to just rebrand it and say, like, hey, this is heavily influenced by Mother, and this was planned to be, in that same kind of wheelhouse of what we would have loved to see be the next game, the next title after Mother 3. And that kind of hearsay isn't something that Nintendo can ban, because that's just someone, saying that they're influenced by it. It's not clearly taken from it. And in this light, they're still seen as like those heroes who are creating more content that Nintendo is not doing.
Wouldn't it be really cool if Nintendo just pulled a Sega, and instead of like issuing like DMCA claims, they fucking did the Sonic Mania treatment, and they're just like, yeah, we'll like pay you to make it.
Yeah, good luck on that. I mean, that's a great thing to say, but that's also a super risky thing to do.
Oh yeah, I think it would be interesting if they did it. I'm not saying that it would happen, but and like you said, obviously, it is Nintendo's IP, so they could do whatever they want with it. I'm excited to see what Oddity turns out to be. Our next news story is over on Polygon. It's written by Charlie Hall, and it is IGF award nominations include Untitled Goose Game, A Short Hike, and Slay the Spire.
Nice. All great games.
The 22nd Annual Independent Games Festival, IGF, award nominees have been announced, topping the list from the, I think it's Seamus McNally Grand Prize, maybe? I think it is. I think I said it correctly. I'm just going to say I did.
It's fine. You're the best.
Are several commercial hits, including Untitled Goose Game and Slay the Spire. The IGF Awards are delivered each year during the annual Game Developers Conference, otherwise known as GDC, by the way, in San Francisco, named after the late developers of Treadmarks. Interesting. Which won the award in 2000. The jury-selected grand prize is amongst the most sought after among fledgling game developers. Past winners include Minecraft in 2011, Fez in 2012, Her Story in 2016, Night in the Woods in 2017, and Return of the Obra Dinn in 2018. In 2015, the award was given to the student-created game Outer Wilds, which should have changed the name then. The commercial version of the game will go on to become Polygon's Game of the Year. Okay. I don't know why I read that part. This year's finalists include the following. Eliza, A Short Hike, Untitled Goose Game, Mutazone, Slay the Spire, and
Anodyne 2.
Okay, Anodyne 2, Return to Dust.
Which, have you seen that game?
No, I've seen on the Yeti they've had merchandise for it, but I've never actually looked it up.
Yeah, so I didn't really know anything about this game until I saw this article, or not this article specifically, but I heard about this a little bit ago through Twitter, and I saw this game. It actually looks pretty cool. It reminds me a lot of God, what was it? Evoland, where you're playing the game and like part of it is in 3D, but then part of it is back to 2D, like kind of Zelda-esque.
You go through the different generations of gaming.
Yeah, I really love games that do that. Although I will say that, and granted this is an indie game, so, they probably don't have the highest of budget, but the 3D modeling is a little old school, very like N64, early kind of PS2, PS3, not really.
Yeah,
3,
it looks like Soul Reaver, Legacy of Kain.
Yeah.
Like it looks a lot like that.
It looks a little bit clunkier, and I think the 2D art does it more justice, but I do enjoy the, going between realms kind of idea. It's something that I'll
Fuck,
probably end up checking
cool.
out.
I really like the 2D sections.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like
This is dope.
the 3D.
Oh,
I
that's a
wasn't as
slime.
crazy
I gotta
about,
get this
but-
fucking game. There's a slime in it.
You're such a dweeb. All right. Anyway, continue.
I also want to know what Eliza is.
Yeah, I don't know what that one is.
It's so weird that like there are so many different indie games that I feel like it's hard to know about all of them. Mm-hmm. So when these kind of like when these awards come around, it lets you know about a game like games like Eliza and Anodyne that a lot of people I don't think they're not like frequently talked about, like Untitled Goose Game and like Slay the Spire.
I mean, yeah, because everyone's talking about those two games. So
Exactly.
I mean, it's tough. Like, it's tough to have publicity in a world where you have so much going on. There's just like too many games coming out, and it's really lucky for a lot of independent developers to get that spot in this. Like, that's a dumb way to say it, but that spot in the spotlight.
This is kind of interesting. Eliza is a visual novel about an AI counseling program, the people who develop it and the people who use it. Interesting. I'm going to have to check this one out. I don't know. I've never actually played a visual novel before, so.
I'm not as crazy about them, so.
Honorable selections include Katana Zero, Lonely Mountains Downhill, Song of Bloom, Wide Ocean, Big Jacket, Elsinore, and Heaven's Vault. You can find the full list of nominees, which includes additional categories such as Excellent in Design and Excellent in Visual Art, at the IGF website. Who do you think will actually win this award? Between the few of them, I mean, we don't necessarily know the qualifications that it takes.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know what they're basing it on, but your gut feeling, who do you think will win?
Well, I mean, this is just the independent games, like the best independent game, I guess, is kind of what they're saying. For sorry, I'm trying to. This year's finalists. Yeah, I mean, it's it's interesting because it's one of those things where it's like, did it do the best commercially? Because then I would say it would probably be up against Untitled Goose Game or Slay the Spire. If we're saying for the most, like groundbreaking. I still don't even know.
It honors the most influential, innovative, and acclaimed project in indie game development.
I would probably...
That's what it says on their website.
I would probably not give it to Untitled Goose Game, though, as much as I like it and enjoyed the concept and the hype behind it, just because I don't think it's really groundbreaking. I would say Slay the Spire is one of the more commercially that goes into groundbreaking because it really kind of set the mold for a lot of what that genre does now. I can't really speak to A Short Hike or the others just because I haven't really played them too much. I think Anodyne probably has a good chance because of the fact that it does that interesting technique of blending the games depending on how well it did that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really too sure.
I'm wondering how they're chosen with this IGF award. Like, is it a consensus among developers at the conference or something else? I'm looking at their website right now, and I'm not 100% sure. They do actually, IGF award winners will receive more than $20,000 of prizes in various categories, including the $10,000 Seamus McNally Grand Prize, and all IGF finalists this year also receive a $1,000 stipend. That's kind of interesting.
That's dope.
So just kind of getting nominated, you get a stipend. That's cool.
Wow. Good for them. Yeah, I'm not really too sure. My gut says Slay the Spire, but I'm biased as hell, so I'm probably not right.
I think probably Untitled Goose Game. I'm not 100% sure. Like you said, it doesn't do anything like necessarily super special, but I think it's just highly lauded. Like, a lot of people played it. I mean, it also just depends on how the award is given. This will be interesting. I'm going to have to look into this more to see how that one is actually chosen. Because if it is something like a panel of judges instead of the developers themselves, there's just a lot of ways that it could go. But I'm going to say Untitled Goose Game. I think it'll win.
All right. Well, when you're wrong, I'll laugh in your face.
All because you're just rooting for that Slay the Spire?
I mean, it might be, honestly... Well, that's weird. I don't see it in the actual list. I don't see Mutazone in the list of the nominees on their actual website. Oh, no, here it is. It's weird that they didn't say it in the nominees. It says the nominees for the McNally Grand Prize also include, and it's a couple of different names. It's all the names except for Mutazone. And then later down the line, they say the McNally Grand Prize, and Mutazone is in there.
Yeah.
That's kind of
that
strange.
Is weird.
So I don't know.
It gives you a short description of each one of the games, and then they're like, Mutazone? Nah, I'm not going to.
Yeah,
I'm going to try on that one.
That. But I think that one might win, like, looking up more about these games, just because of the fact that it is a very... It just feels very indie. It's like a 2D point-and-click adventure where it seems to be music-based on certain characters or friends that you're meeting, and it seems to be a very like relaxed and like slow-paced time. But then I guess Short Hike also is, so yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
That we will. We will also see our next news story, which is over on Game Inforton. What the fuck did I just even say?
Game Infortner?
I said Game Inforton.
Game Inforton. You were probably going for like Game Informant, maybe?
I don't even know. That was fucking dumb. It's written by Matthew Cato, and it is Corner Wolves coming first as a thriller podcast. So there's a lot in this article, and really the only pertinent details are actually down below. So I'm going to leave out a lot of this. We have actually talked about Corner Wolves before. Mm-hmm. It's being developed by a team of like ex-Mass Effect, Sleeping Dogs, and Fallout devs. So Brass Lion is currently working on the video game related to the property. I'm so fucking stupid. No release date has been announced for said Corner Wolves. But this year, people can experience Corner Wolves via a podcast series by, and I know I'm just going to butcher some of these things, but it's Marginal Media Works and Luminary on the Loudspeakers podcast network. Dude, I think I'm having a stroke. I think I'm dying right now. Like, it's happening. I've slowly degraded from idiot to just mushmouth in general, and I'm just going to start, drooling and such. So right. I'll let you know if you hear kind of like that, like if you hear that noise a little bit, just be scared. Call the police, okay?
All right.
Or paramedics.
I've got 911 ready.
And then when it happens, you're like, I'm not, fuck that bitch. He's been calling me Big Josh Boy. Like that.
That's
that
not my name.
This is an aspirational crime thriller with a young woman of color at the center, says Marginal Media Works founder and CEO Sonia Sharma, I think. A new hero, a new narrative, all parts of a new narrative system. We are going to push the edges of a new auditory and music influenced storytelling experience. She could not have said, or I don't know the gender of this person, so they could not have said new any more times. Literally like every 5 seconds, seemingly.
Yeah, well, it's new. It's very new.
Just in case you didn't know, it's new.
Not old, much new.
The emergence of hip-hop in the era will provide a rich backdrop as well as other elements of... I don't want to try on that name because I'm going to butcher it. So I'm just going to go forward. Because I think it's like Jacente, but I'm not 100% sure.
I mean, yeah, let's just move on.
So do you think this is cool? They're kind of like branching out and making an audio podcast before the game even comes out to kind of get people prepared for this gameplay experience later on.
I think it's a pretty unique way to publicize your game, and I think it's definitely something of this era. So I, for one, think it's a step in the right direction. I don't know. I mean, I guess I'll check it out. I don't know if this will really be something for me personally, but I do think there will be a lot of people who, if they're interested in, a compelling story, and if they're able to write one, which based on, many of the developers and their backgrounds, I would assume they would have no problem with that. I think this is a really good way to kind of hype up the story and give sort of a prequel to what they're going to play, and to give them an experience so that when they actually play the game, for those who are listening to the podcast, already have some kind of investment and, relationship tied to these characters. So I think it's a smart move on their part.
Yeah, I'm pretty interested in this, mostly because recently I've kind of branched out with my podcast tastes, and I've started to listening to We're Alive, which is like an audio drama about zombies, and it's kind of my jam right now.
It? Is that why you guys are talking about all these weird questions lately?
I'm trying to get him to listen to it, but he doesn't seem that into it.
Oh, well, that's because he's writing his own,
They're zombies that fucking talk.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I know. It's weird, and it's awesome, and I really enjoy it. So I think, like, an audio drama in this sense would be really, really cool, especially, like they said, with this kind of, like, backdrop of hip-hop. That would be really cool to, like, hear that commingled within the podcast. I'm really interested in this. I actually, like, because of We're Alive, I've wanted to check out more, like, audio dramas, so...
Well, there you go.
This is going to be cool. They didn't say in the article, I didn't see if they said like when exactly this was going to come out or when they were going to start production on it, but
I don't know. Let me check out the full story. Or is that just the full story about... No. Yeah, it's about the developer. Yeah, I don't see anything on it. While you're talking about the next one, I'll see if I can find anything else.
All right. So let's move on. This one is over on Nintendo Life. It is our last news story for today. It's written by Liam Doolin, because that's literally the only guy who writes for them. And it is Axiom Verge creator open to developing more entries after he finishes this sequel. One game worth keeping an eye on is Axiom Verge 2. It was teased last month during the Nintendo Indie World Showcase and is scheduled to arrive on the Nintendo Switch eShop at some point in time this year. The creator, Tom Happ, previously mentioned how the sequel would mix Metroidvania and Legend of Zelda, and now in the same interview, he has revealed how there's likely to be even more Axiom Verge games released, provided the sequel replicates the success of the original. His exact response was, "That's the plan, though I might be a bit burned out on Axiom Verge after finishing 2 and interject a different kind of game in between." So I'm going to be honest, that does not seem to be the answer that is provided within this article. Like, it's kind of weird. They're like, yeah, he seems to want to make more Axiom Verge games,
even though he doesn't want to do it.
Yeah, he's literally like, I might be burnt out. It seems very clearly that he does not want to make more Axiom Verge games. And then they're like, he said it.
I mean, I get what they're doing, but yeah, it is heavily tied towards like the answer that people want versus what it really is that he is interested in doing it, but probably will take a small break in between because, he spent like how many years now developing 1 and 2? So I think it makes sense to give himself a break. Otherwise, he will just... we've talked about this a couple of different times, is that it makes sense to take a small hiatus on a lot of things, because if you do try either a new game, whether it be a genre or be, totally different, but still the same genre, you learn new things from that because you come in with a different perspective, and it will then hopefully make the next part of your, Axiom 3 better. So I don't see that as a bad thing, but yeah, I would be shocked if he went from Axiom Verge 2 and then directly jumps into 3.
Yeah.
By the way, before we dive any further, Corner Wolves podcast is expected to go live sometime in May.
Ooh, all right. Have to keep an eye on that bad boy. Tom also mentions how he always reads players' feedback and said despite the ongoing requests, he will never turn the series into a multiplayer title, but would make an effort to address any other requests. His exact quote is, I do read player feedback. Even if I don't respond to it, I'll probably never he says probably never. It is not. He did not say he would never. Probably never. Turn Axiom Verge into a multiplayer game, no matter how much people ask for it. But I try to address most other things I can. I've played Axiom Verge, and I'm kind of surprised that people want multiplayer in it.
I've never played it. It's definitely one of the things that's on my backlog that I really need to go through.
Have you ever played Metroid? Because it's seriously just like Metroid.
I mean, I've played Metroid games, and I do enjoy them, so I really have always wanted to play Axiom Verge, but just never got to it.
Yeah, it's... I don't know. Would you necessarily want to play like the Metroidvania series with another person? I don't know why, but I feel like that's kind of weird.
I don't think... Like, the problem with that is with Metroidvanias is the map is specifically designed in many ways that your character is just big enough for the world around it. And I feel like having two characters in there would just get cramped. Like,
yeah. I mean, somebody's got to set precedents, I guess. So maybe eventually, because he said probably never, but maybe eventually Tom Happ puts... 2 players in like Axiom Verge 12 because apparently he's just gonna keep working on him even though he said
he'll never
he's
stop.
Get burnt out.
He's just crazy.
Maybe he'll
like
put it
that.
in there and it'll be really interesting.
Maybe, yeah. Axiom Verge 12 would make sense because it would be player 1 and player 2. Big brain.
Yeah, there's a big one on you. Not just in the underneath. You know what I mean?
Yeah, big mouth too.
You can't see me winking right now. But
I can feel it.
All right, let's move on to our next segment, which is News Cram.
Cram.
News Cram is our weekly wrap-up segment where we, the hosts of Indie Incursion and Indie Games Podcast, cram you full of all sorts of indie games news. This week, we don't have any news stories for you or quick deals and quick steals. Fuck, dude, I just can't get that one. But we do have some new stuff for you. Our first 2 items in new stuff come by way of Nintendo Life, where it's reported that RPG Smoke and Sacrifice by developer Solar Sail Games will be getting a limited release through Super Rare Games, with pre-orders going live on January 9th. Gloomy adventure game Lydia by developer Platonic Partnership is headed to the Nintendo Switch on January 17th. Over on IGN, it's reported that Cardboard Computer will soon release the highly anticipated 5th act of Kentucky Route Zero, as well as announcing a complete collection headed to consoles called Kentucky Route Zero TV Edition. Both Act 5 and the TV Edition will be releasing on January 28th. And to round out the group, over on GameSpot, it's reported that Exit the Gungeon, the follow-up to Dodge Roll's hit bullet hell roguelike Enter the Gungeon, will soon be headed to consoles as well as PC sometime in the beginning of 2020, according to the developers. So, Big Josh Boy, we've been blessed with so many amazing indie games news stories today that I think it's about time we hop in to our next segment, which is God Bless the Crowd. This is where the biggest of average Josh Boys hops into all sorts of different crowdfunding sites, finds some awesome indie games to talk about, and we do just that. This week, we've got one for you. It's called Ruby the Wayward Mira. I hope I said that all correctly. It is a 2D action platform game teaming with lush pixels, featuring ability-based progression paired with RPG elements for PC and Switch. The developers are looking for $12,000. That's their goal. They currently have, at the time of this recording, $6,396 with 232 backers and 28 days left to go. If you're kind of coming on this later, you will more than likely have to pay the $20 for the initial copy, because we've currently got like 3 hours to go on the early bird, which is 15. But this game looks cool as shit.
It really does. It looks very reminiscent of like a new age Mega Man with a ton of abilities and like little secrets to it.
I mean, I see where you're going with that. Yeah, I would definitely agree. I think it looks a lot like that, with the exception of it seems to be a lot more melee combat than like projectile combat
Right.
where like Mega Man kind of lives, I guess.
Yeah.
Because he's got literally a fucking arm for it, but
Yeah, but the jumping aspects, like the wall jumping, like I'm thinking of Mega Man X, the wall jumping aspect to it, the design for a lot of the different characters and the way that hidden elements are structured in this and just the way the map looks reminds me a lot of the Mega Man series. I think that, I don't know if it's directly quoted in there or not, but it definitely looks like they took some influence from the Mega Man series in general, which I'm all for because I love Mega Man. But regardless, even if you're not a fan of Mega Man, there is more of a, it looks like, which it's kind of funny that you did say that you were scared it looks like a roguelike, because it does have that appeal. But it just looks like a very Metroidvania-esque game of collecting power-ups, trying to find, different ways to progress your character and fight different enemies throughout. I think it looks really fun. This is one of those games where I'm definitely torn between I should probably back it or not.
yeah. To kind of paint you guys a word picture. This game is seemingly 16-bit, really, really beautiful pixel art. It's set in a world that is both kind of like fantasy themed, but also tech-based. So it's both robotic and fantasy, which is really interesting. I like a lot of these weird, like seemingly magical creatures. Mm-hmm. Like there's this one that I gotta find it on here. It's called some kind of a toad. The Kazimiran, I think. Angler toad, which just looks like a fat fucking goldfish with arms.
Yeah.
It looks awesome. I love that design. It looks so interesting. And it's like stuck in a hole. This game looks really, really cool. I like the combat, or at least what seems of the combat a lot. It doesn't seem to be super special. Like you said, it seems a lot like Mega Man-esque, but with this kind of more melee focus to it. You have, I want to say a beam katana, but that's not it, because that's beam weapon is the graviton. Yeah, beam sword. Okay, yeah, that one's a beam sword, and then the beam weapon graviton, which is a slow-moving projectile that deals damage over time, but can be activated a second time to dash to its current location. That's fucking dope. That does look really, really cool because it has like interesting platforming elements with those abilities. Ruby this is her beam sword, lets a concentrated version of her projectile beam out of her mana clasts for high power at close range. Ground combos and aerial strikes make this a go-to for up-close threats. Yeah, the platforming looks really interesting. I like how they seemingly mix a lot of the gameplay elements within platforming. So it's not just like you're slowly jumping over stuff, but you also do similar things to like how in The Messenger it's mixed in an interesting way, combat and platforming, where you would have to strike and then jump. She does something similar to that, where she jumps across this chasm and gains air by hitting multiple different enemies while in the air. I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah, it looks really interesting. I definitely want to see where this game goes. Plus, you can pet like a really cute looking dog.
Yeah, I love how this has become a thing.
Yeah.
Where people keep advertising that you can pet the dog in their game.
That's the best part.
Also, how is that Twitter account verified?
I
don't understand that.
Just because?
I should also say the world in this game seems really, really interesting. The story of it has the Casimir is a dying planet. Ages ago, 3 perfect singularities of mana gave birth to the progenitors of Casimir. They weaved their power throughout the veins of the planet, giving birth to all life in the world and the Mira. For a time, life flourished and grew to every corner of the world. The Mira continued to build on this power. Great civilizations grew unchecked until the power began to dim. The planet was at its limit. The ancient power bestowed by the progenitors had reached its bound, which is, I don't know what that means, if I'm being honest. But the Mira refused to accept their fate and continued to draw on the last reserve of Casimir. A great ruin washed over the lands. Ash and dust stripped bare the once verdant? V-E-R-D-A-N-T. Verdant.
Sure.
Landscape and all of life retreated into what refuge it could find, now searching for answers before all is lost. The Mira face a difficult future. This game seems really, really cool. In Ruby, the dying fantasy world of Casimir and the world of near future Earth fuse violently as the large... I love how I'm so dumb. I read words and then sometimes I get them wrong or right, and I just sit there for a second and I'm like...
And you're like, that doesn't make
which
sense.
one is it? Yeah. I don't know. As the large Hadron Collider's secret experiments force the two realities to entangle, what is a calamity for Earth is salvation for Casimir, or so it seems at first. You play as Ruby, a Mira unable to use magic, suddenly thrust into a world with an overabundance of it. What grants her strength overwhelms the other Mira, driving them mad with power at first, eventually falling feral. Ruby's driving goal is to reunite with her family on Casimir by restarting the Large Hadron Collider, but the feral Mira have other plans. This game looks dope as hell. I love the characters. They look really cool. Ruby, I love her idle animation. Like, if you watch in the gameplay videos, when she stands still, she kind of bobs back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I like that so much. It's just so interesting.
I don't know. But another thing to mention, if anyone listened to this and they think, oh, this sounds pretty cool, there is a demo that you can download to test it out yourself to see if this is something you want to back. I personally haven't done it yet, but it'll give you a good indication of whether this game is for you or not based on how they're doing so far. And one of the things that's interesting, at least, is I read up at the top here, Ruby is a Metroidvania at its core, but features non-linear gameplay with multiple playstyles and endings, which I think is really cool because it's, one of those things where I wonder how much of a multiple endings they're going to do. Like, how many branching paths will there be? Because I do enjoy that style of gameplay of having those different choices that matter in it.
Yeah, I also really like that as well. I should say that I wanted this to be somewhat of a surprise, but this is actually the first game I backed on Kickstarter.
Holy shit. We did it, folks. Yeah. We finally got a game. I
gotta follow my own recommendations, I guess. Now that we're 64 episodes in.
I was gonna say, it took me more than a year to finally find a game that you would back.
I mean, there were other games, but I was always so wary of Kickstarter, but now I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go into it. So yeah, I saw the early bird had only a couple hours left to go, and I was like, dude, fuck it. $15 a month from now, I'm in. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'll do it. Because this game looks really, really cool. And it is set to, seemingly their estimated delivery is December 2020. So... cross my fingers it actually comes out then. I will personally probably get this on PC, but yeah. I don't have much else to say about the game because I'm just kind of gushing about how awesome I think it is.
Another quick point out is that their goal is $12,000, and they do mention it's for PC and Switch, but their Switch goal is actually $15,000.
Yeah, that one's a stretch goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a little weird.
Yeah, just something to be wary of if you're planning on getting it on the Switch.
Yeah, I hope they hit it, obviously, because I want the game. But I think they will. They have 28 days left to go, and they have half of what they're asking for. So I think this has a good possibility of actually getting backed.
Yeah, they're in a good spot.
Now, let's go into our last segment of the podcast, which is our random questions. We have 3 for today. Surprisingly, I did not remind Chase, so he forgot to send in a question, the follow-up to his weird-ass questions.
And yet we still have 3 questions.
Yeah. That just shows how awesome our audience is. Chris Penwell, John Moore, and Samuel Fillion. I hope I'm saying your name right, by the way. You do tweet at us.
Yeah.
So please
let us know.
let me know. Because I know I'm saying the other ones right because I know them personally, but I do not know if I'm saying your name right. Let's start out with Chris's question, which is, what franchise do you want Telltale Games to tackle next now that they are back? I think a series based on Archer or a series based on Avatar The Last Airbender would be amazing.
I think it's funny that he put Archer just because you had that GIF image with Archer in it. And I was like, did he put that just because that image was there?
I don't know. That is actually an interesting question. Okay. I have no idea. That Chris Penwell, also feel free to tweet at us and let us know if you did that just because I used that GIF.
I think he did. So my pick is actually, I'd love to see something based around the Fallout series. So post-apocalyptic worlds and events kind of like that are just something that I'm really into. It's why I really recommend a book that's called The Postman. If anyone's into that kind of stuff, you should read it. It's pretty good.
What's it about?
The Postman?
Yeah, what's it about?
It's basically about a dude who, I talked about this on the podcast like a long time ago. It's basically about a dude who, he's in a post-apocalyptic world. He gets kind of stranded, like in a really shitty situation where he's basically going to die. All his clothes are messed up. Someone, like bandits, stole from him. And he finds this abandoned car, and like a postman was in there, like a post office, an office worker for mail. And he finds their vest and their like bag of mail and basically takes that stuff because that person was dead. It's just like a skeleton there, and he needed clothes to survive the winter. So he puts that stuff on, and then he travels outwards into a different city, and he's revered as this hero because he was from the old time. He's deemed as a postman. People have a lot of praise for them. And so basically he just keeps going from town to town, living this lie of saying that he's a postman. And inadvertently, he starts creating an actual post like route through the towns and becomes the first postman again, even though he's just lying and telling people he's a postman and doesn't really mean it, but then builds this whole postal network system because of it. And it's a very interesting story that has a big kind of spoiler at the end of what's happening. And I won't go into that part, but I just really enjoyed the story of it and just kind of the idea of going into this world in less ideal situations, and basically people of power changing from, the like a democratic system of people who are more of the knowledgeable side trying to influence others, as opposed to in a more post-apocalyptic world it being more like a struggle of power physically, and people just kind of working their way into these weird bandit camps and things like that, and restructure of society and how that works. It's just a very interesting book. It's essentially thought of as like a World War III happened quite some time ago, which might be relevant. Anyway, so to answer the question though, Fallout series I think would be an awesome thing to see because there's a lot of potential, and I don't think it would have to be anything that specifically is tied into the Fallout series itself from, things that we've seen before. I think it can kind of...
Yeah, similar to like a Tales from the Borderlands.
Yeah.
It's not like... It wasn't necessarily tied in until the most recent game.
Yeah, I think that could definitely do it some benefit because there's a lot of liberties you could, take from the Fallout series of just things that are referenced in and kind of like, Easter egged in. But the main concept is always there of it's people surviving after a nuclear holocaust and what society has changed into afterwards. And I think there's a lot of really interesting choices that you would have to make that can get put into an interesting narrative that Telltale can say or tell.
Yeah, for me, fuck, dude, Avatar The Last Airbender would be so cool. You stole that one from me, Chris. You're such a butthole. Because that would be so dope. I would love that. I've been wanting to read the comics for quite a while because I love the two different series that they have. I would also love to see Telltale do two things. One of which is to branch out and make more kind of like... smaller properties into stuff. So like the Fables comic series wasn't, I don't believe it was like gigantic. It's like a big comic series, but it's not something as well known as something like The Walking Dead or like anything from Marvel or DC.
Right.
So it was really cool that they made The Wolf Among Us, and I'm so stoked that Wolf Among Us 2 is going to come out because I love The Wolf Among Us. It's easily my favorite Telltale game. But which is kind of crazy considering The Walking Dead was so good. But I would also specifically I would like them to kind of branch out and try some like different comic series. Try to maybe like work with Image or something like that. Maybe like make an Invincible Telltale series, or that comic series went on forever, so that one might actually be hard. But make something like there are some other kind of smaller comics. Like I recently started reading The Realm, which I think is really cool. It's like kind of like a fantasy isekai, but not. It's like this otherworldly like fantasy realm starts to like merge with our world, and it takes place seemingly far past any of that has happened. It's really cool. I would like to see them work on kind of these different like smaller comic book properties instead of like really big ones. And I would actually really like them to make their own IP. Like, really start working on their own characters, their own worlds, especially because one of the big problems that happened with Telltale and their studio closure was that they didn't have any IP. Everything that they had was based off of like franchises that they had leased for the most part. Like,
right.
They did stuff with Minecraft, they did The Wolf Among Us, they did Guardians of the Galaxy, but they didn't actually own any of those IP. And I think it would be really cool if Telltale actually branched out and made something that's just their own. Like, don't go and make fucking, like, Back to the Future, the next game. Instead,
but what if they made a Hollow Knight one? You know?
That'd be fucking dope. I don't know if I would necessarily... I would definitely play it, but I don't think that world is exceptionally well suited for it.
Maybe not. Maybe because there's not much talking.
Yeah, there's not a lot of talking, and like Telltale's games are kind of based on suspense and kind of like, I don't want to say this like more noir detective feel, but it's a lot like that. Like, and I don't think that certain worlds actually work very well in that. But you never know. Maybe this new Telltale will branch out, start making like different stories in general, where it's not just about asking questions, but it's about actually getting more involved, or answering questions, but getting more involved in the world.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they do. Let's move on to the next question, which is John Moore, founder of Parallax Media. He says, what's the one indie game you are most excited for this year? Meaning 2020, by the way.
In case
I feel like I should say that just in case. Yeah.
What
yours? Game are you most excited for?
No, I want to hear yours first.
Obviously, it's Hollow Knight Silk Song. I feel like
of course.
that has to be it. Either that. There were like 3 games for the most part. Hollow Knight Silk Song would be amazing. Solar Ash Kingdom, which is the follow-up from Heart Machine, the developers of Hyper Light Drifter. Super excited to see what that is, because it's actually 3D instead of 2D. Or there are a couple others, but I'm just going to say it's one. I would like to see... I'm really excited about 2 other games, Garden Story and Riveting Saga. I think both of those look really, really cool. Garden Story, I believe, is the last game being developed in unison with the same people who did Cat Lady and like The World Next Door. I think they're
yeah.
I believe so. I'm not 100% certain, but it's like that deal with Viz Media. I'm excited about both those games as well. There's so many fucking indie games that are coming out this year. I'm so stoked. Like, just this month, like I said before, got fucking Temtem Mindseas was announced. Oh shit, that wasn't actually in our news stories because nobody covered it. But if you guys are looking forward to Mindseas, which is a game we actually covered in God Bless the Crowd a couple months ago, it is actually coming out January 30th on PC, with the Nintendo Switch date TBD, I guess. But yeah, January 30th.
And it looks pretty
Check
dope.
that game out. It looks really, really cool.
Yeah. For me, there are a lot of good games coming out. I think the ones that I'm the most excited for would have to be Carry On from Devolver Digital, which is the one where you're playing that giant blob like horror monster who's just wrecking people who have imprisoned him.
Yeah, the reverse horror game.
Yeah, it looks so good. And then Super Meat Boy Forever, which was supposed to come out 2019 but got pushed back, and people they say it'll probably be 2020. I don't know if that's what it's going to actually be, but if it is 2020, I'm super excited for Super Meat Boy, because that game is awesome, or at least the first one was.
And it actually like has combat in this
yeah,
one,
it's
seemingly.
totally different. So I really want to see what it's like. And then another one that I really want to try out is Way to the Woods, which is not really, I don't think there's a specific release date yet, but that was the one game, I forget where it was showed off. It was either a Kind of Funny showcase or a Nintendo, like in Nindies Direct, but it's this one that's very strange where you're like you're basically like a mama deer and a baby deer, and you're like walking through, and like your antlers will sometimes light up, and you're basically trying to get to the woods. I don't know. It's very different in like what you're actually doing, but it looks really cool.
Yeah. I'm just looking at pictures right now, but yeah, it looks really interesting. It's got, I'm trying to think of what art style this is similar to. Fuck. There are some games that it looks like, damn it, I'm not going to be able to think of it. I don't know why, but it kind of reminds me of like, I don't know how to say it. It's either Faye or Thea. It was one of the EA originals, I believe, that released in 2018, but it might release in 2019. The art style kind of looks vaguely similar, obviously being more realistic and not like these weird fucking demented beasts. But
right. Oh, it was
yeah,
actually
this game
E3.
does look really cool.
That's where it was announced. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Also, there's Skatebirds, or Skatebird. Got to get that lo-fi.
I fucking
bird.
forgot about Skatebird, dude.
I mean,
how could I forget?
I want that soundtrack. That lo-fi fucking bird hop. That's going to be some good tunes.
That shit looks good. Yeah. There's just, so many. Damn you, John. You had to bring up the fact that there's just too many fucking indie games to play. Let's calm down with Sam's question.
All
he
right.
writes in, once again, I'm just assuming people's genders, which I really need to stop doing. Samuel Fillion, they, because I don't know the gender, writes in and says, corn dog or hot dog? I can't decide. Help us find out which top
dog will be crowned.
Which top dog will be crowned the ketchup king, or mustard or mayo or whatever weirdness you love?
A good question, for sure. You go. I feel like you're going to say corn dog, aren't you?
I'm going to say fucking chili dog, dude. Sam, you're a little bitch. I don't know why you did not think of chili dog. I mean, you did say crowned ketchup king, or mustard king, or mayo king.
Yeah,
you know
so
what?
you're
It's
the
the
chili
chili
king.
king,
There
bro.
you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Chili dogs are the best. If I did have to choose between corn dog or hot dog, I would choose corn dog. And I would also like to preface that with saying I was such a dumb kid and adult that until probably the age of like 20, I did not know that it was called a corn dog because it's cornbread on the outside.
That is some good facts for us. I would go with hot dog. Fuck corn dog.
What kind of condiments do you put in your hot dog?
My
I mean,
hot
not just
dog?
condiments. How do you dress this hot dog?
How do
in
I
general?
dress it with a nice suit and tie? You know,
A nice bow tie.
Gotta make it look. Gotta make my wiener look formal. You know what I mean? Yeah, I would say for a hot dog, I like to put. I don't like mustard in general, unless it's honey mustard, but I don't think that works with a hot dog.
Dick
but
water. It's terrible.
Whoa. But I would do ketchup, mustard, relish, and then probably like some kind of crunchy stuff, like either like some kind of chips or like onion rings, like deep fried onion ring kind of things, like on top. That would be pretty dope.
You put fucking potato chips on your hot dog?
Yeah, it's fucking good. You should try it.
What?
Yeah. It gives it, because a hot dog is like a bunch of mush, and then you got like a nice good crunch on the top. So it's like it mixes all in your mouth.
That's a good one. I'm gonna have to check that out. Oh, is it age-old question? Hot dog, is it a sandwich?
No, it's a dog.
That's a whole new like food genre. Like, a whole new classifications, just dogs.
It's dogs. Yeah.
They're like,
Hot
there's
dogs.
hot dog, corn dog, chili dog, and then just actual dog.
Actual dog. Yeah, that one's frowned upon a little bit more than the others. But yes, there is dog, I suppose.
For me, hot dogs, I just had to go straight fucking ketchup. That's it.
Really?
I don't need no fuss, no muss, just ketchup. For corn dogs, I like to have some ranch.
Oh,
Yeah.
Some
nice buttermilk ranch on my corn dogs. You know what I really hate is that at every like carnival or fair or whatever, if you try to order a corn dog, they'll lather it in mustard but no other condiments.
Yeah,
they'll be like,
weird.
you can get it with mustard, nothing else. And I'm like, why though?
It is.
I just want anything else.
Yeah, it is commonly seen. Like anytime you look at like a corn dog like packaging or some kind of box, it will have like a weird drizzle of mustard on it. I don't know why that started though. Does cornbread
Maybe
go
it's
with
just the
mustard?
pop of the mustard.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, I guess.
Like it just looks aesthetically pleasing.
I guess the yellow looks a little bit better than a weird red squiggly on your dog.
Yeah, maybe the marketing actually has now like brainwashed people into thinking that corn dogs should be served with mustard.
Well,
But in reality, they should be served with buttermilk ranch.
I mean, I'm not really about either of those, so sure. But, it's okay. I guess we'll go with ranch. I don't know. A corn dog? No, it's too much. Too much. Ranch
Are
goes...
you saying a corn dog is too much? In
with
general,
ranch.
or just ranch
with
on
ranch.
a corn dog?
It's. Well, I mean,
You
I don't
just
really
said
like.
you eat fucking
I don't
chips on
really-
a hot dog. You're telling me you're not going to try ranch on a corn dog?
No, that's too weird. I'm not falling for your traps.
This shit's good, dude. I like it. I like it a lot. My
All
mom showed me that. Like, we used to go to Winco, or I say we used to because I don't live with her anymore. I still do this. Go to Winco, get 3 corn dogs, get a little packet of buttermilk ranch, chow down. It's
3 corn dogs by yourself? That's
Okay, I'm a little fatty.
It's a lot of corn dogs. Like in one sitting? Like
I will say the average serving for me is like 4 corn dogs. So thanks for making me feel like a little pudge ball.
I mean, well, how big are these corn dogs?
It's like a normal size of a corn dog. Have you?
I don't know
these corn dogs?
I don't know the normal size for corn dogs. I'm not eating them all the time.
It's a fucking hot dog. It's not like a Costco wiener. This
I don't
is
know.
just a
Maybe
fucking hot dog.
Maybe it's like a little sausage thing. It's like deep fried corn dog bites.
It's like a Vienna sausage.
Yeah.
It's basically just a pig in a blanket.
I mean, I'll go to town on those things. Those I'll eat like 500 of those. Those are so good.
Vienna sausages or pig in a blanket?
No, pig in a blanket. Get out of here. Come on now. You know it's
They're
pig in a
basically
blanket.
the same thing.
They are
They're
not
like
the
little
same
sauce.
thing.
The Vienna sausage
They
thing
are
is just
not.
like fucking barbecue sauce or some weird shit.
No. You get the little there's like they're called little smokies or something like that. They're like these little sausages and they're delicious. And then you put them in the crescent roll. Delish. And it's always like, when people are like, oh, you got to bring a dish to this party. It's like, all right, I'm just going to make that because I'm going to eat all of that and not someone else's crappy food that they make.
That is a good point. Yeah, potlucks are pretty fantastic because you just get to bring whatever food you like.
Yeah, you bring the one thing that you want to eat, and then you're like, oh, that food looks nice, and then you just stay by your dish, and you're like, this is delicious. I'm so glad I made it.
I feel like people think that potlucks are actually like the most kind of like intimate affair, but really it's the most distancing because you're just like, I bring my own food because I think your food's gonna suck.
I mean, that is one way to look at it. I don't think everyone looks at it that way, but yeah.
I mean, I'm a super picky eater, so it makes sense.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, you do what you have to.
But, Sam, thank you for getting us on the topic of food. Thank you, Sam, John, and Chris for writing in. And thanks, everybody, for listening and participating in the podcast. It's amazing. Please play more indie games. Bunch of awesome ones coming out this month alone, let alone in the year. If you guys would like to chat with us outside the show, you can follow the Indie Incursion podcast on Twitter at IndiePod. You can follow me, Vaughn Hyde, at Hyde Legion. That's HYDELEGION. And you can follow Josh at _Jorsh90. That's THE_JORSH 90. Yeah, the _Jorsh90.
Yeah, look at you, you're like 90. You're like, are you not sure?
Yeah, kind of threw me off. That's it for this episode of the podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you guys next week.
Bye, guys.